and communities will actually make an input on the G20 theme, which will finally lead to the Leaders' Summit. So as Parliament, we have had various engagements in the various provinces, but also hosted the Youth Parliament, whose focus was on the P20 theme, as well as the Women's Parliament, also on the P20 theme, which culminated in the P20, which was the Speakers' Summit. This involved both houses of Parliament, the National Council of Provinces, and the National Assembly. So today we want to welcome you. We were officially handing over to the Deputy President our declaration, which will then form part of South Africa's input to the G20 Leaders Summit, which will be held here in South Africa in the coming week. So you are most welcome. In my language, I would say, Kululani Baiti. I would have also said the dogs have been tied so that they don't bite you. So you're most welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. His Excellency, the Deputy President, Honorable Hon would not understand what I'm about to say, but I omitted greeting my colleagues, the two House chairpersons. That's why so I can't explain it in English. But no, let me recognize the House Chairperson, Honorable Hon, and House Chairperson, Honorable Hatebe. But now I will continue and give an opportunity to our Auditor General of South Africa, Ms. Maluleke, to come and do remarks and presentation of the SA 20.
Thank you very much, House Chair, and I'd like to greet the Deputy President, Honorable Mashatile, the Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable Didiza, and the House Chairs that are here, and all the honorable members. Ladies and gentlemen, a very warm greeting to each and every one of you this afternoon. It is indeed an honor and a privilege to have this opportunity to formally hand over the SAI 20 communique, which is essentially our own declaration. It's an outcome of collaboration and shared commitment amongst supreme audit institutions, SAIs or SAIs, across the G20 countries and beyond. By supreme audit institutions, we're referring to organizations like the one I'm privileged to be, the offices of the Auditor General across the world. SAI 20 is an engagement group of the G20, bringing together the SAIs and the Auditor General, who are uniquely positioned to provide not only post-facto assessment, but also foresight, insight, and oversight in support of inclusive and sustainable development. Through our work, we enable accountability, transparency, and we also contribute to strengthening democratic processes. This year's summit, hosted for the first time on African soil, marked a historic moment. It offered a valuable and timely opportunity to bring African perspectives, African challenges, as well as African aspirations to the forefront, and to have those at the center of a global dialogue. I am pleased that beyond the G20 members that were present, we had in attendance some of the key players from the continent as observer countries, and that allowed us to contribute to this important engagement as a continent. The themes that we chose, which were infrastructure and bridging the skills gap for sustainable development. These three themes were deliberate and relevant to our current complex realities. Well, you see, infrastructure remains a cornerstone of economic growth and social equality, whilst skills development is essential for building a future-ready workforce. The communique that I have the privilege of presenting to you today is built on 4 affirmations. One, that agreed upon shared standards are essential if we are to manage global risk. The second is that SAIs are well positioned to support government by providing independent insight and oversight that enhances decision-making and accountability. ultimately contributing to improvement in the standard of living for citizens across the world. The fourth one is that risk identification and mitigation are central to unlocking progress on development. And the last one being that public resources must be used efficiently and effectively to realize national and global commitments and ambitions. The communique outlines practical recommendations ranging from enhancing infrastructure audits to financing transparency and enhancing that, to bridging the skills gap through evidence-based assessment and future-focused training, especially for young people, so that they too can have a stake in the economies, but also in their democracies. Whilst I will not go through each recommendation individually, these recommendations reflect the collective expertise and shared drive of the P20 engagement group to support G20 governments in delivering better outcomes for their citizens. Honourable Deputy President, on behalf of P20, I am honoured to present this communique today, and we hope that the insights that we share will support our government as well as the governments of other G20 countries and beyond in their development efforts, and that they will indeed be meaningfully reflected in the broader G20 declaration. Thank you very much. This is the declaration that I'd like to hand over to you, if I may. Thank you. This is the outcome of our work. Thank you very much.
Can we have another round of applause? Thank you very much. I will once again call upon the Honourable Speaker of the National Assembly to also do the remarks on the presentation of the P20 Parliament. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I'm not sure when you say umnikazi wempuphu here like Parliament, what do you mean? But nonetheless, thank you very much, House Chairperson Majosi. Deputy President, indeed it is an honor and privilege that we as the presiding officers of this Parliament, starting from the Executive Authority, myself and Honorable Mtsweni Tsipane, together with our deputies and House chairpersons who actually led this process, supported by the Secretary of Parliament and his team, are able to present to you a communique that came out of the P20 Speakers Summit. The P20 Speakers Summit, Deputy President, drew to a close in October, where it closed a remarkable chapter in our journey towards shaping a more inclusive, sustainable and resilient global future, which has been marked over the 2 days where we met as a summit to deliberate on a number of issues. As I indicated from the South African leg, this process started early in the year of 2025, where we started consultations with young parliamentarians as well as women parliamentarians to look at how we can bring the perspectives of young parliamentarians, but also young people in our country to the G20 process, so as the women's leg. And these two tracks were led by our House Chairpersons, House Chairperson Frolik and Deputy Chairperson in the NCOP. And I must say, Deputy President and honorable members and our guests who are here, that these two processes culminated to what we called the Youth Parliament and the Women's Parliament, where again, further deliberations were held on what we need to do as parliaments to bring a more inclusive and a just society. In this deliberation, one of the things that became clear was that parliaments are not just spectators on global matters, but through parliamentary diplomacy, a lot can be achieved to support our governments, but also to be critical on some of the global issues that are taking place. One of the core concerns that parliamentarians discussed in the G20 looked at the increased participation of youth and women in our parliament. Because in our view, those are important stakeholders that must ensure that their perspectives do shape our world. Secondly, we looked at issues of solidarity with our various communities. And as parliaments, we agreed that issues of solidarity cannot actually be left only to governments to deliberate upon. But there are key issues around which, as parliaments, need to take interest on. So one of the key issues that was deliberated related to the debt cancellation, which has been piloted by a number of parliaments and multilateral groups. Because in our view, we can never have an inclusive global economy if we do not address the issues of debt that a number of developing countries are facing. Similarly, the issues that were also deliberated upon looked at how we can protect communities who have got critical minerals that are required by others for development, and look at how those communities beneficiate and how those countries' economy can actually leverage on those mineral deposits that are in their country. In a way, parliaments were saying we need to ensure that we play an oversight role to make sure that communities whose mineral deposits are actually key for their development serve that purpose, unlike what we've seen over the years. The issues of peace, particularly global peace, was another issue that was discussed. And I must say, Deputy President, that while there might have been differences of opinion on some of these matters and how we can actually allow better trade regulations that ensure that countries can trade freely amongst themselves. So, Deputy President, P20 Speaker Summit here present to you a declaration that we hope that our leaders, as they meet, will take into consideration and be able to deliberate and act upon. We retain our responsibilities as Parliament to do oversight work so that what is agreed is not only in paper, but actually can be implemented. Thank you very much, Deputy President, and here is our declaration. Thank you. As I close, I want to recognize House Chairperson Solly was also one of the key organizers with other House Chair and our Secretary to Parliament. Thank you. And the Secretary to the National Council of Provinces, Advocate Pindela, who's sitting in the back.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I would also take this opportunity and welcome the House Chairperson, Honorable colleague, who has just joined us now. Now I will like to call upon His Excellency the Deputy President of the Republic of South Africa, and that Mashatile, to have the acceptance remark.
Thank you very much, Program Director, House Chairperson, Honorable Majosi, Honorable Speaker, Honorable Diviza, all House Chairpersons here present, Secretary of Parliament in the NCOP, the Auditor General, Ms. Takani Maluleka, chairpersons of engagement groups, senior government and parliament officials, distinguished guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. It is my distinct honor on behalf of the government of the Republic of South Africa to formally receive the SAI 20 Summit Communique, the P20 Declaration, and the accompanying joint declaration of the inaugural P20 meeting of young parliamentarians and the joint declaration of the second P20 meeting of women parliamentarians 2025. These instruments collectively represent the strength of multilateral engagements and the depth of democratic legitimacy within the G20 processes. They ensure that the voices of oversight institutions, parliaments, women, and youth are not only heard, but embedded in the architecture of global governance. The Supreme Audit Institution, SAI 20 Communique, reminds us of the indispensable role of Supreme Audit Institutions in promoting accountability, transparency, and sound governance. Your insights and recommendations underscore the critical role that SAIs play in strengthening governance, promoting fiscal responsibility, and ensuring that public resources are used efficiently and effectively for the benefit of our citizens. The communique we received today is more than a statement of intent. It is a roadmap for action. It highlights two pivotal priorities. First one, accelerating efforts to unlock and leverage public infrastructure funding for equality, sustainable growth, and improved quality of life. This aligns with SDG 9 and calls for collaborative planning, technology-driven transparency, and robust governance frameworks to close infrastructure gaps. Second one, bridging the skills gap for a future-ready workforce, as articulated under SDG 4, emphasizing education as a catalyst for social justice and economic transformation. The recommendations on curriculum innovation, equitable access, and public-private partnerships resonate deeply with our national and global aspirations. Its recommendations on unlocking infrastructure funding and bridging the skills gap for a future-ready workforce aligns perfectly with our G20 presidency theme, which is solidarity, equality, and sustainability. These priorities are not abstract. They are about building societies where governance is transparent, development is inclusive, and progress is sustainable. The P20 declaration, together with the declarations of women and young parliamentarians, affirms that parliaments are where diplomacy becomes reality through law, oversight, budgetary decisions that impact the daily lives of citizens. These voices make the global policy table broader, fairer, and more representative. They remind us that global governance must reflect gendered experiences and generational justice, not only in theory, but also in process. I therefore also acknowledge the joint declaration of the second P20 meeting of Women Parliamentarians 2025, which advanced the imperative of gender-responsive legislation, equal representation, inclusive budgeting, and closing gender gaps in access to opportunities, especially in climate, energy, finance, and digital transformation. And also the joint declaration of the inaugural P20 meeting of young parliamentarians, which has affirmed the lived realities, aspirations, and innovative capacity of young legislators globally, and called for future-proof development, meaningful youth seats in oversight and budget processes, and an international bridge between generations in lawmaking. These two declarations are not side documents. They are core instruments of democratic legitimacy. They ensure that parliamentary solidarity encompasses gendered experiences and generational justice, not just in theory, but in practice. Next week, South Africa will host the G20 Social Summit in Ekurhuleni, Gauteng Province, bringing together engagement groups, social movements, and grassroots voices from across the world. Its declaration will be handed directly to President Ramaphosa as the chair of the G20, an authentic message from the people of the world. Our responsibility is to ensure that this summit is inclusive, equitable, and reflects the lived realities of those too often excluded from decision-making of global importance. On behalf of the Government of the Republic of South Africa, I formally receive this declaration and commit to elevating their priorities as we conclude our G20 presidency and as they feed into the final Leaders Summit outcome. South Africa's G20 presidency has insisted that the G20 must lift all voices and not leave constituencies behind. And today, through these instruments, including the voices of women and young parliamentarians, the global policy table becomes broader, fairer, and more representative. In conclusion, Program Director, let us view these documents not as the end of a process, but as the beginning of renewed collaboration, transforming principles into measurable progress for all. Thank you very much, and I'm happy that you had the opportunity to spend this afternoon with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy President. I will now give an opportunity to all media houses present today, if there are any questions, but I will apply my head of the House Chairperson 1 minute each. I'm giving an opportunity to all media houses. If there are any questions that you will need, you want to ask about the presentation of P20 and the presentation that we received. I'm happy then to go to the last item for this afternoon, which is the closing. Again, I will then recognize the Speaker of the National Assembly to close on our behalf. I'm directed that the House Chair of International Relations in the NCOP will do the closing remarks. Amen.
Thank you, Honorable House Chairperson Majosi, the Speaker of the National Assembly of the Parliament of the Republic of South Africa, the Auditor General, the first one, the first engaged one. You, the Deputy President of the Republic, the leadership of Parliament as a whole, all the other participants in this session that we are having here. It was a great session indeed, that the Parliament and the Republic of South Africa was given an opportunity to host this memorable event of the P20 and those of the sector meetings. So this work which is done today in giving the declaration to the President, the Deputy President of the Republic, is a proof that our constitution enjoins the three arms of the state to work together. I know that it would have been ideal that the judiciary was supposed to be here, and then so that the three arms of state can be working together, although they operate independently, but at the same time they do their work in support of our democracy. So, Speaker, the work which we have done, it was so difficult, sometimes full with patience, fighting amongst each other, who must come, who must do what, but at the end of the day, as the former President Mandela said, it always feels difficult until it is done. So today is a proof that it is done. It is done. So siyabonga wonke umuntu okhona.
Thank you very much, Honorable Hatebe. Now we've come to the end of the program, and thank you to everyone who have attended today. Advocate Pindela, you were seated right at the back. I didn't see you and the STP there as well. My apologies to recognize you at the end. I just saw, I heard that Advocate Pindela, but I was wondering where you are seated. We've come to the end of the program, and thank you very much for gracing this event and this short program of ours in this afternoon. I would say the program stays adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Maybe let us allow, before we leave, let us allow His Excellency the Deputy President and the Speaker and the Auditor General to first exit, and then let us allow His Excellency and the Speaker and the Auditor General to move first, and then we'll follow them after. Thank you. Do like that.